Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema. I am your host, Tosin, on a podcast that goes to the cinema, sees maybe 3 films, usually a limit of 3 films at the cinema, sees 3 things at home on various streaming platforms, and figures out where our money was better spent. Now, I am joined from the Isle of Wight, as always, by Sharon Bolland.
Hello.
And by Shaun on the Isle of Wight this week.
Yes, I'm on the Isle of Wight this week.
On the Isle of Wight this week by Shaun Harris.
Hello.
And we're coming to you in the week that some of the most heartwarming news that I think I've heard from the entertainment industry has come out, which is that Kate Bush, 37 years after she originally released a song, has finally got that song to number 1.
Yeah.
In the chat. And it is because of Netflix. It is because of Netflix. I mean, I don't know. I think I was listening to a BBC sort of interview with her, which is one of the few interviews that she's done in ages. And just talking about, what do you think about this? And I have to admit, even though I was never a real fan of Kate Bush, I mean, I like Running Up That Hill. I think Running Up That Hill is probably my favorite Kate Bush song. But at the same time, I haven't listened to that many. I always thought Babushka was just weird. And Wuthering Heights, I was like, it sounds good, but I don't know what she's on about. And but yeah, so I would just, but as someone who didn't know that much about Kate Bush, I just ended up with a really silly grin on my face I was like,
she was
I love
when Wuthering Heights come out. She was at the Winter Gardens in Bournemouth, and my cousin Glenn went to see her, and I think she must have been the first singer dancer sort of thing that was actually on stage with one of those little round mics. So that would have been round about 76.
Yeah.
So she would have been one of the first to actually. So in a way, she was a bit of a pioneer with, like the Wuthering Heights thing on stage.
A dancer. Well, she always saw herself as a dancer first, and foremost. And all of her songs are, the movement that she puts into them is as important as the words and the music and the melody. But yeah, I love Kate Bush. I think she's, I rate her enormously.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So you guys, it's as if you listen to the same interview that I listened to, because they mentioned the microphone thing, they mentioned the innovation thing, they mentioned the dancing thing. It's on the BBC Sound app. It's like actually on the front page at the moment if you want to go in there. And it is was it either Emma Garnett or Rachel Burden, one of the two, who interviews Kate Bush, and they also speak to
that because I love Kate Bush.
Yeah, they also speak to Caitlin Moran, who just waxes on about Kate Bush and how much she meant and all that, and how Sean, you were talking about the microphone on the head, and she pioneered that because she wanted to be able to dance when she was actually singing her songs, and I suppose just sort of stand in one place and sing on the microphone. But anyway, enough about that.
Just to finish off with the Kate Bushiness, have you ever seen the Wuthering Heights Day videos, where everyone dresses up in a red dress like Kate Bush did in her Wuthering Heights video, and they get hundreds of people all dancing together as Kate Bush. Men, women, children, you name it. They all wear the red dress and they all do the teeth and all that. So they do the whole thing. I know that would be my secret fantasy, would be like to be amongst one of several hundred people reenacting the Wuthering Heights video.
Oh my word! We got to find where that's happening. We're gonna find out where that's happening and get you there, Sharon.
Oh, it'd be fantastic. I'd buy a red dress just to do that, and red tights. You've got to have the red tights as well.
But I think she's the kind of person who does inspire a lot of devotion, especially by the Duffer Brothers, who use it in a scene. We haven't spoken about Stranger Things because I stopped watching Stranger Things after season 1, and I haven't picked it up again. So at the moment, there's apparently this amazing scene in season 4 that everybody is banging on about that has gotten Kate Bush to number 1 finally with Running Up That Hill, and I can't talk about it because I have 3 years worth of stuff to wade through.
That's it.
You've seen more Stranger Things than I have.
Yeah, but okay, so that's enough about things that we haven't watched. Yeah. This week, what have we watched in cinema? Let's go with cinema. Shaun.
Okay, well, I've seen Lightyear and I've seen Black Phone.
Yes, and I have also seen those 2 films because the Lightyear viewings, this is one of those things where they are obviously thinking this is a film for kids, because I couldn't find a viewing of Lightyear that started anytime after 5:15. And I was like, how am I supposed to watch that?
I mean, late night, that's like my viewing time. Wife and child go to sleep. I go to cinema. That's the way things work. You're messing with the retro. So I went to see The Black Phone last night. And when I heard that Shaun had watched Lightyear, I was like, I can't let Shaun have the animation. I'm gonna watch Lightyear. I too want to watch Lightyear. So I went and watched that earlier today. Sharon, this week.
Yes, I've had a bit of a quiet viewing week, and I have only caught up with Jurassic World Dominion at the cinema, and I am still watching bits and pieces. I haven't managed to finish a single series yet on all multitude of platforms I now have available.
Well, we made it worse when we told you about the Barclaycard 5-month thing for Apple TV Plus.
And because I've got the Sky at home, we've now got Paramount Plus through Sky.
Yeah.
The more channels I have, the less I actually watch. I end up just watching Sewing Bee. And
because it just becomes too much to try and figure out what you need to watch.
Too much to filter out, and then I think, I'm just gonna watch Sewing Bee and then go to bed.
Okay. I remember that there was a time in my life where I realized, and I got really, really sad when the realization hit me that there were too many places in the world for me to visit before I die. So I know that there's going to be places that at the end of my life I'm never going to make it to, and that made me really, really sad for some reason. And I think I'm getting very close to a very similar thing with TV, where I'm like, I'm gonna die, and there's gonna be too much good stuff to watch, and there's gonna be life-enriching stuff that I never got around to because there's just too much of it, and there's too many. And it's just a similar thing. But anyway, enough about slightly depressing thoughts about things that we're supposed to love. And let's go on to Jurassic World Dominion. Can you quickly tell us what you thought about that? Because obviously last week you did not come on the show because you hadn't seen the film yet. And you hadn't seen the film yet, and you didn't want to be influenced one way or another because you knew that there was a fight brewing about there was a difference of opinion brewing about this film. So you haven't listened to what we said last week, and
no.
But I mean, you have to carve out half an hour from it because the review of Jurassic World Dominion was half an hour long. But quickly, not half an hour. Let's have like 3 minutes. What did you think of Jurassic World Dominion?
Well, I would go on the side of from what I gather of the opinions. I would go on the side with Holly. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I liked the little nods to the earlier films. The reference, some of the scenes, like where the dinosaurs are framed by certain images.
Yep. I remember that. Yeah.
There's certain objects that appear, and you think, that's from that film. Oh, and that bit is from that film.
Okay. That bit you were talking about, the dinosaur being framed. I couldn't figure out if I liked that, if I thought it was cheesy as hell.
See, I quite liked it because I thought, as this has been stated, that this is the last of the Jurassic Park world, whatever, the Jurassic franchise. I thought, yes, it's a nice nod to where it's come from. So that and with some of the scenes of the dinosaurs, like that running at the beginning when they're sort of running as herds, and she stands up and takes her glasses off and all that. I thought they were direct nods to the earlier films, bringing these the Park films and the World films, bringing them together with the cast, and then with acknowledging certain scenes with Jeff Goldblum and his unbuttoned shirt and going and doing up that extra button because his unbuttoned shirt was like the thing about Jeff Goldblum's character, this black shirt that was just one too many buttons was open.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I think last week we spoke about people who watched the original Jurassic Park film in the cinema, and like that was a big moment for them. I think we also now have a separate category for people who watched that and saw Jeff Goldblum's open shirt, and I went, oh my god, ooh! All of a sudden, he's raised up to the level of Matt Nicholson. Okay, all right, cool. So that's what you thought about it. And now, what we need to do, Holly isn't here this week. She should be back. She might be back next week. We don't know. So what you need to do is you need to go listen to our review.
Yes.
So carve half an hour out, listen to the review, and then come back and then let us know what you think.
Yeah,
and let us know who you really don't agree with.
Yeah. Who you agree with.
I acknowledge it's not a flawless film. I think there are elements to it that you think you've gone down the line of least resistance on that particular bit, but that didn't detract it for me. So I could see the faults in it, and I thought, yeah, I mean, if I was watching this with a critical eye, I could probably say, you needed to sharpen that up a little bit. That little bit is a little bit convenient, and that little bit is a little bit
Convenient. Convenience the word. That's the
maybe
word
lacked
of the
a
day.
little bit of chemistry. But for me, it didn't detract from it because it's not a film that needs to be logical. To be honest with you, I thought it was a bit of a hoot, and I liked it, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, as far as I, that was it wasn't a wasted trip to the pictures.
All right, cool, good stuff, good stuff. And Tosin. Okay, I just want to say one thing. I'm trying to move us on, but I think you just said a line there where you said that this is not a film that needs to be logical, and I think that line tells you everything you need to know about where this franchise has gone from the first film to the sixth film. Yeah. Like it doesn't need to be logical. I think that tells you where the franchise has gone. All right, cool. Anyway, now we've seen Lightyear, we've seen Black Phone, and at home, I have seen continuing my quest to see everything I can on Apple TV Plus before they take it away from me when my when my Barclaycard 5-month period is up. I saw Severance on Apple TV Plus. And Shaun, you have brought us a new streaming platform this week that we are yet to watch anything on. I've heard a lot about this one, but I haven't seen anything on it. And Shaun, tell us what streaming platform it is and what it is you saw on this platform this week.
This platform's called Shudder, and it's mainly horror films. They've got some classic horror films on there. They've got some films that you would know, and they've got a few of their own productions. So yeah, it's but mainly it's pretty gore and horror, and it's for people who love, they have these. It's
essentially the horror
fest. Yeah,
it's the horror stream. Is the horror streaming platform? That's what it is.
That's basically what it is. Yeah.
And I've heard so in the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, there was a film that is only available on Shudder, I believe, called Host. That is essentially like, okay, we're recording this over Zoom, and it's pretty much a Zoom call that goes. People are playing like a Ouija or doing a seance over a Zoom call, and things go. And everybody has raved about this film. So Shaun, now that you have access to Shudder, I would like you to go watch Host. Apparently, it's only just over an hour long.
Right. Okay. I should check that one out.
It's gotten rave reviews, and I want to see if because you read things on there or whatever. But Shaun, I trust Shaun more. So
okay.
So we're gonna do that. And Sharon, you said you haven't finished seeing anything, and
I haven't finished. I've started a couple, but I haven't actually finished anything yet.
All right, and in that case, Sharon, I would just take that as a real good. I take that as a vote of confidence about Shaun and my company. That you haven't seen anything, but you still want to come hang out and talk about, hear us talk about stuff that you haven't seen. I will leave it there.
I turn up with the Joe willing.
All right, cool. So let's
you can be the umpire then. You can listen to our conversations about the movies, and then you can because with your criteria, with what you've got, you can say what you think between us the film would be worth.
Ask us questions. All right, cool. So let's kick off with Lightyear. So kicking off with Lightyear, and this is a confusing film from Pixar and Disney. And so this is a film that was announced a while back, and I remember that there was once a time when Pixar said nobody's ever going to voice Buzz Lightyear but Tim Allen, who voices Buzz in the Toy Story movies. And then they said, oh, we're going to make a film called Lightyear. It's based on Buzz Lightyear, voiced by Chris Evans. And you're like, what? Didn't you just say no one's going to voice this character but Tim Allen? Now, why the heck are we having a version that's voiced by... And when they first announced this, it really, really gave me DC EU universe vibes, because DC don't know what they're doing. And they come up with all these plans, and it doesn't seem like it's joined up, and it just seems like it's all over the blooming shop. And I was really worried about this film, because I was like, I don't see why we're making this film. Pixar was at one point, Pixar was the place you would go for the height. For the absolute height of storytelling, and everything was tight and everything was original. And then Disney took over, and then all of a sudden they started doing sequels and they started doing spin-offs, and there has been a bit of a drop-off in quality from the Pixar stuff. And this film just sounded lazy. I mean, to me, the original idea of this film sounded lazy. And when this film kicks off, Shaun, there is a thing that's written at the beginning of the film, which I missed because I was going to the film about 3 minutes late. So you tell us, but I know what's at the beginning. So tell us what they put at the beginning of this film to explain the existence of this film.
Well, it's basically at the beginning thing is they're saying this is what the story of Andy's with the Buzz Lightyear. This is what Buzz Lightyear's story is based on. So it's like this was a film. This was actually a film that was made for the toy of Buzz Lightyear for coming out, or something along them lines.
So,
really.
so that there was, I think it says something about like in 1995, a boy Andy got a toy. That toy was based on a film. That action figure was based on a film. This is that film that the action figure was based on.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Toes. Much more eloquent than I put it. But yeah, that's the gist of it.
That's probably because I haven't watched. I didn't say. I just read it somewhere, so with that, you're like, okay, fine, maybe there's something in this. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised because everything I was thinking about this film, I was thinking, okay, it doesn't make any sense for it to exist. And it's still arguable as to whether this film should exist. But the story that it tells, which is essentially you have Buzz and his fellow space rangers, they crash land on a planet. And when they're trying to escape from the planet, when they get attacked by stuff, they end up the escape doesn't work and they end up stuck on the planet. And then this film ends up being a lot deeper than I actually thought it was going to be. And it ended up being, I thought, okay, fine, just gonna give us like some sub Star Wars thing of Buzz, it's a space adventure and all that. But
yeah, because it sort of starts off that way, doesn't it, Toes? With like black, and the stars, the black screen, and you think almost like the start of the first Star Wars movie starts off.
Yeah, and then you end up with this story about Buzz who has crashed. He's crashed on this planet with a ship full of people, and his whole mission is, I need to get these people back home. I need to get these people back home. And then it goes through a whole bunch of what he does to try and get them back home, but it goes to deeper places than I expected a film based on a toy to go. So because it's there's a sequence in it that I have to say is probably it's like a marriage of the sequence at the beginning of Up.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, it's a marriage. It's a marriage of the sequence at the beginning of Up with something from Interstellar, and it gave you similar. You know how you have that short sort of 5-minute bit thing at the beginning of Up, and you're like, oh my god, and you just sort of like, that's a film in its own, and you end up with all the feels. And in this sequence they have, it's like a montage of stuff that goes on. It ends up being as well. Not as much as Up, because Up is an all-timer. Up is a classic for that bit. That's just a classic. So this isn't to those levels. But when you still have you get a sense of pathos and a sense of, oh my god, and this is how much that must have mean, and this is what people are sacrificing, this is what the life has been led. And I just thought that was brilliant, and I was like, okay, they are doing something a little bit different here. And I thought I was really enjoying the film. I was enjoying what they were saying about this group of people who are trying to fight their way off this planet, and the way they were going into those people and going into their lives and going into what happens and what do they do, and are they going to try and set up a new life here, or are they going to try and escape, which is like some themes that you see in sci-fi, like in Battlestar Galactica even. And it was when the adventure kicks in, that's when, for me, the film, I'm like, oh, okay, now you ruined it. Because now the adventure is kicked in, because now we're going to have a bad guy, and now the bad guy's going to do this, and there's going to be that, and oh my word. But it was just really, really cool just hanging out with those characters. But now you've moved it on, you're trying to sort of put the action-adventure elements, which you have to have. But even in there, when the bad guy, because obviously the Buzz Lightyear, his bad guy is Zurg, Emperor Zurg, who shows up as a toy in toy form. But there are revelations about Zurg that you're like, oh, this is way deeper than I thought a kids film was gonna go.
That was a surprise there. Yeah.
It was. I kind of saw it coming. But especially with what you've known and what they've done with Zurg in the other Toy Story films. But it was still a bit of surprise, it's still a bit of a, dare I say, bold move to do in a film that you expect to be a kids movie. I just thought it was quite cool. But anyway, that's me talking. Sean, what did you think?
Okay, yeah, for me, this film had elements. It had, but it didn't really. I mean, I wasn't enthralled by it. I wasn't. I mean, there was nods to a few movies which I liked, which you're obviously going to put in a couple of those, but. I found
the right stuff.
Yeah. you know, I mean, I like the idea, the concept of him trying to do the experiments to try and, get off the planet. I thought that
when
was
he's trying to get off the planet,
yeah, that was a great concept, and I like the deceleration idea and things like that, because no one's really come up with stuff like that, is it? You go to hyperspace and then it's sort of put the brakes on, and so I like that idea, and I like, again, you see, it's funny with movies. This I thought, this is pretty good. But I must say, I did find the Admiral's daughter really, really annoying. Really, with the group of the thing, she was just like, oh, come on. It was reminded me a bit of Mulan, that bit with the characters there, with the.
Oh, do you mean Moonfall?
Well, and like in Mulan, it's got, I'll make a man of you, and Mulan's got those.
Oh, Mulan! Mulan!
Little cronies, in the cartoon. It was a bit like that, and so to some points, I did have a few issues, and again, some of the consistency things. But on the whole, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was that bad. As I say, just it wasn't like it didn't flow for me. I found it, in fact, I found it a bit mundane, should we say?
Yeah. I think it doesn't quite justify its existence, but then it doesn't completely wet the bed either.
No,
like I think it's enjoyable enough, and and I think within a structure of like the space action adventure, they try and do certain things. Like there is some bit in there where you go, hang on, that's actually kind of like some sort of hard sci-fi. Where you talk about deceleration rings, and when they talk about getting things, and also, but it is still a kids movie.
It's a kids movie, really. So we can't be too harsh.
Yeah, the timings tell you like it's a kids movie, so that's why you have that kid in there, and also, of course, Socks the cat, who is
the saving grace.
Who is a robot companion that Buzz gets given.
He's great, isn't he? We like him.
Yeah, Socks the cat is good.
Socks
the cat is like meow 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 meow. I've bought you 5 minutes, but all right, cool. So how many stars would you give Lightyear, Sean?
I'm just going to give this one a 3. This is a standard 3 for me.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of agreeing today. I would agree with you on that. It's. I think if they had carried on the. I feel like if Zurg had never showed up in this film, this might have been a 4. This might have been a 4 if Zurg had never showed up in this one, because I was thinking this is going places that I wasn't expecting this to go.
I think it was a sort of particular Disney formula, you know what I mean? It was like stock Disney with the idiotic characters, the silly characters. The characters in it you could see were like what Disney had been using for years and years and years.
Yeah,
and what I was saying about Leah, about Mulan.
And that's where I feel like the influence of Disney on Pixar has not necessarily been a good thing.
Yeah.
Because Pixar had their own formula, but it was fresh enough, and they changed things up. And like if you look at something like Turning Red, a film like Turning Red, I think Turning Red has more inventiveness in it than this does, and it's and I think that there is a formula, and you can almost sort of feel the Pixar fighting against the formula by putting this in there, putting that in there, and putting one particular scene that's got in the film banned in China, because there's a same-sex relationship in it, and it's but I think it's a 3. If they carried on with the first half, it would have been a 4, but I think it ends up being a 3. All right, cool. And now we go over to Apple TV Plus and their offering, which is a show called Severance. This is a show that comes from Ben Stiller. Well, Ben Stiller is one of the major pushers behind it, and I'm not sure what you think about Ben Stiller or whether you like him or not like him. But this, the whole idea behind Severance is that you live in a world where someone has invented a process or procedure which they call severance, which is they put a chip in your brain and it severs the connection between your work life and your home life. So when you're at work, you only think about work, and when you're at home, you don't even know what you did at work. So everything you've done at work is secret. If someone kidnapped you in the street and said, "Tell me what it is, give me the secrets," you wouldn't be able to tell them because you don't know what it is you've done at work. All you know is that you go to work every day, you go into a lift, and then next thing you know, at 9 a.m. you're going to the lift, at 5 p.m. you wake up in the lift. That's all your consciousness knows. But it means that your consciousness that's at work, and this is something that when I heard it, I was like, okay, cool, I can see this. Work-life balance, probably like a workplace satire or something like that. That idea kind of makes, it almost sounds attractive, But then the flip side is that you've pretty much given yourself a whole new personality, and your work personality never leaves work. So imagine if you're a human being and you are at work, you wake up in the morning and you're at work, you fall asleep, you're at work, you wake up, you're back at work, and it goes into really interesting questions about what that would do to a psyche, what that would do to a person. So at the beginning of the show, you have a new recruit called Helly, who is brought into this group. Then it's like, even the people at work, they don't know what it is that they do. They move numbers on a computer into a box. That's it. What are they doing? They don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing it. That's just what they do. They just know that. They just know that they call them outies and innies. They know that the outie made a decision at some point that I'm going to have this procedure and I'm going to put you in there. So the outie and the innies actually think of themselves as two separate people.
Right.
So these people are pretty much giving themselves a split personality. And you go through a character called Helly, played by Britt Lower, and she's new to the group. And she's the one asking all questions like, why did we do this? She keeps going, why would my outie do this to me? Why would somebody lock me up in a jail in a place that I cannot leave? And there's even bits where they record messages from the outies, record messages for the innies to read, and the innies record messages for the outies, and it's really interesting saying, okay, what would happen, and why would something that would sound like a good idea to separate your work and your home life to help you give you more balance? Why would somebody do that procedure? What was behind it? There are all these questions that I think are really, really interesting. It's 9 episodes. It has a great cast. It has Adam Scott, as I said, Britt Lower. It has John Turturro. John Turturro is in it. Christopher Walken is in it. Patricia Arquette is in it. And
it's the biggies then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Apple TV Plus. They have money. They get good people in. and I think it's really, really interesting. I think the way it goes into this sort of the way it goes into the philosophy of it is quite good. The one thing I have against it is that it ends. You have 9 episodes. You're trying to figure out what's going to happen here. It goes into a little bit of, and I feel like the interesting ideas is one of these things a bit like Lightyear, where you have interesting ideas, but you need to put a structure to it, and then the structure becomes almost a formulaic of what we're going to do, and it kind of becomes almost like a prison breakout film. And it's like, how are we going to break out? How's that going to go on? And then it ends. The show, the first season of the show, ends on a massive cliffhanger. It ends on a massive cliffhanger, which I detest. I'm like, no, no! You mean this is not the full story? You haven't given me the full story. So if you do watch Severance, just be warned. It's 9. Yeah, you're gonna watch it for 9 hours, and it's going to be a cliffhanger. It's like, come back next season to find out what happened. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to come back. Unless I know that season 2 does not end on a cliffhanger, I might not be back. But I thought it was really, really good. I would give it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was actually really, really, I thought it was a good show. I think it's a good show, great premise, and interesting things get asked about through that. So 4 stars for Severance on Apple TV Plus. Sharon, seeing as you've ever seen anything, would you want to ask any questions about that?
Yeah, I saw the thumbnail for Severance, but I couldn't quite work it out what it was about, because often these thumbnails don't give you any real clues, and the description you're thinking, often it says, this is a thrilling drama starring so-and-so.
Yes,
I think you've got exactly nothing about
it's like, oh, if you say so yourself. It's like, yeah. We've given you a thrilling drama. It's like, if you say so yourself.
Yeah, and you think, so thank you. Yeah, so I wasn't sure whether it was science fiction, whether it was ironic, or whether it was or The Office. I wasn't. Yeah. I couldn't really quite work out what it was. So that's interesting to say, you know, what that's about. That sounds like an absolute nightmare to me. I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the best things about the show is because when I started watching the show, I was like, yeah, that's not that big. That's not a big a deal. But they get across to you quite quickly how nightmarish this is and how it's like George Orwell on steroids. How much of an idea this is like George Orwell on steroids, and but they also get across to you that there's people who support this plan and who want to make this plan work. Because I can imagine, I mean, like the NHS. I imagine the NHS would love this. The NHS would love Severance. They'll be like, yes, shove it in their heads, quick, put it in there. But yeah, but I can recommend it as long as you are warned that there's not particularly a resolution.
tormenting ending.
Yeah, it's a cliffhanger. I hated it. I hated that ending. But 4-star show. 4-star show. All right, cool. So let's carry on. Let's carry on again. And now we go on to the second film that we've seen in the cinema this week. And both Sean and I have seen this, and that is The Black Phone. I've done a lot of talking. So Sean, I'll let you tell us, what is The Black Phone about?
Okay, The Black Phone is basically it takes place in the 70s, and it's the story of these children have gone missing, and there's this thing they call him the grabber, because he's always got like black balloons. I mean, it's in the trailer, so it's not going to really. So there's always these black balloons that are hanging around of children that have gone. And then you've got this story that goes into there's this young lad called Finn. He gets bullied a lot. And he's got a sister who's a little bit psychic, you know, but their dad is he's an alcoholic basically, and he does some really sort of nasty things. Anyway, eventually
the dad is a horror movie dad.
Yeah, he's a horrible movie dad, really. He is a horrible movie dad. And
a horror movie dad.
No, I said a horror movie dad. Like whenever you have a dad in a horror movie, they're always like this.
Yeah.
They always have
strict, you know, and dismiss things, you know what I mean? Dismiss things as like, don't be so stupid, you know what I mean? There's no such thing as monsters under the bed and all that.
You're not special.
You're not special. Yeah, that's it. Well done, Toad. Anyway, but they got a really strong bond, this sister and brother, and anyway, the brother or the boy Finn gets taken, and he's shut in this room, and then you've got, you know, the movie tropes of try and look after him, and there's this phone. He gets messages through this phone that's disconnected, basically. Yeah. So hence you've got the black phone, and then it turns into pretty much standard, like you know, someone's kidnapped in a basement. What are they going to do? And
like a survival horror film.
And like a survival horror film, yeah, it's a survival horror film really. And you know, so on this phone, he's getting messages to say, do this and do that, and you know, put a magic rope, you know, that and stuff. Anyway, so yeah, you know the bit I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. And so anyway, so to start off, I mean, I like this period. I like this sort of period films. This period, obviously, being from there. So, and it did have that feel. But as I say, it's fairly standard. Would you call it a hostage film or like that? Like more someone that's in.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, but because there were a lot of things about this film you were talking about earlier. Why that you were like, oh, this. You actually said to me, this isn't the kind of film you usually watch, and you're right, it isn't, because I am not a big fan of horror movies, and especially like the hostage movies where, like, you know, you get somebody and they get locked up and I mean, I've seen a couple of them, but I think there needs to be something more to intrigue me to watch one of them, because I don't know why you want to watch a film that either scares you or you want to watch a film where it's mostly just going to be nasty, horrible stuff. And
well, the reason is I've never seen a horror film that scared me, and I want to be, and I've never got the jumps, and I've never, you know, it's always, and they're so predictable, and I've been looking for something that made you all say, you know, oh, this is really good. And sometimes some of these films, they start off really, really good, and then they just fall on their backsides, you know?
Yeah, but I'll tell you that the thing that made me watch this film was because it's based on a story. It's based on a story by an author called Joe Hill, and more on him in a bit late in a second. You know who he is. Yeah, you know, we'll get onto who he is in a second. But it's by an author called Joe Hill. And the whole idea, because when they had mentioned this, like this kid gets kidnapped because there's been this guy called the Grabber, and it has to be in the 70s because that's when you had phones like that. So there's a phone, like a rotary phone attached to the wall, but the phone's disconnected. So the wire's been ripped out and the phone's been disconnected. But while he's in this room where he's been kidnapped, one day the phone rings, and it's kind of like, and for me, I'm like, okay, now that's an intriguing premise. And then he picks up the phone, and it turns out that the people on the other end of the phone are the previous victims of the guy who's kidnapped him, and they are all contacting him and trying to help him, and trying to essentially save his life, because they're like, and it's like, you know, you have the first person who got kidnapped is like, yeah, this is me, I did this, I tried to do this, but I didn't survive, I didn't make it, but don't worry, I've done this there, it's been set up for you, go try it, you have that. And the next person says, well, I did this, and I built on what the last person bringing, and I did this, and then they give him all this information, and I think that's actually a very intriguing premise for a film of what happens, and you can use it to examine a whole bunch of other things. Now, Joe Hill, who we mentioned earlier, he is. Sharon, tell us who he is.
He is the son of Stephen King.
Yes. So Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King. And I think for better or for worse, that is going to follow him around because he has decided to go into a genre that his father has made his own for God knows how many years, writing horror novels. Joe Hill has decided to go into that area. And I feel like in this film, when they made this film, it's done by Scott Derrickson, who did the first Doctor Strange movie, and who left the second Doctor Strange movie because they weren't going to make it as much of a horror movie as he wanted it to be. So he's a horror nut. And you can see that he has put so many nods into Stephen King properties. Like the fact that it's the 70s, there's bits where his sister is riding around the area on a bicycle, and you're like, oh my God, this is it. She's riding around there in the rain, and it's it. The fact that the grabber, when he grabs kids, he has black balloons, which make you think of Pennywise and his red balloon, and it's there's all these nods that they put in, and it just made me go, oh man, I wish that they would just leave Joe Hill alone and stop reminding him that his dad is Stephen King, and stop reminding everybody else that his dad is Stephen King, and just let him do something on his own. Which is why I quite like the book Horns, because that isn't like nothing I've ever read that Stephen King has written. But even the fact that it's in the 70s, it's almost like he is deliberately going and playing in his dad's sandpit. So there's a lot of nods in here that I feel like are to other Stephen King properties. There is some good stuff. There's some good stuff. I think, Shaun, I'm sure if left to your own devices, you would probably end up talking about the child actors. There are some alright child actors, and there are some not alright child actors in this.
The thing I'd talk about, Toes, is incompetent police and incompetent police and brother living in the same house.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's just like,
that bit.
That is all right. You might be a stone and a bit stupid and all that, but come on. That
bit did get me a bit. So okay, there's a character so Ethan Hawke plays the grabber. I think there's no thing about that, and I think Ethan Hawke does I think Ethan Hawke needs to go play a loving dad soon, because he's been playing creeps for a while now, and he plays it well because he's Ethan Hawke, and he can do a good job about it. But he plays it well, but he has a brother played by James Ransom, and James Ransom, who that's another Stephen King thing because he was in it. So it's like I'm like come on, people. Get away from this, and there's a bit where there's one particular.
I'd love to just go I could go nuts on this. This could be one of my spoiler rants. I think for 5 minutes on this.
Because there's a bit where and this is a bit of a spoiler, but there's a bit where you have something happens in this house that happens over a nighttime period, so over a whole period of hours. But if you have an abducted person in this house and you have somebody else who's not aware of this abducted person in this, it just seems a bit kind of weird to just do what this character does and not expect to be caught. It seems
And I mean, for me, this whole film was like, it started off maybe all right, and then and it's just like, it dawns on, look, the police have, it's dawned on this, and then it's dawned on and it's like, oh, come on, man, that's just like, that is really, really, absolutely the most ridiculous thing. I don't know how you could live in a house for God knows how many years and not know what's going on,
No, they did say his brother was only visiting.
Oh right, okay, yeah, that's true. Good point,
they put that in there, so they tried to cover their bums a bit. So
right, yeah, good point. I didn't think about that. I guess I was getting, but what? Okay. Now,
we for some people we've probably spoiled the film.
Just got to say one or two, three things. The magic rope I thought was like, come on, that's not going to happen.
They could have done that one better.
you know what I mean? It's not going to happen, is it?
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
That ain't going to happen. No way.
I know exactly what you mean. There's a bit in this film where a rope that has been hidden by one of the previous people seems to have a mind of its own. And it's not well done, but there are a couple of bits. I think that there's some effective jump scares in this film.
Really?
Like the way for me anyway.
Another thing, I'm just going to come. Sorry, Toes, to talk over you. there's a bit said at the beginning, which I knew was going to be part of it at the end. It was so predictable. Reminded me of what's that film called? The Silence, where they got not The Silence. There's one where they got to keep quiet, don't make a sound. With the fast creatures, and it goes like this. In the second one,
a Quiet Place. Yeah, Quiet Place
Quiet
too.
Place where there's that. And you think, oh right, that's going to be handy later. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, no. So there's the bits about the idea of these kids reaching out from beyond the grave to actually help another kid. I really, really like that idea. I really like that idea, and that idea on its own was enough for me to suspend disbelief and say, okay, cool, actually, I really like the idea. The bit that it's the other bits that they throw in, like you spoke about the psychic sister, and then the police, and then how that could have, and it's kind of like, yeah, and so it goes down a bit. Sorry, it goes down a bit for me. It goes down a bit for me, and I just thought that there were bits of it that were just kind of like, this is just nasty. I don't want to know this, and the grabber's a nasty character, and what happens to these kids is nasty, and I just don't want to. I'm not sure whether it's because I'm a father now or something like that, but it just doesn't. I don't like watching that. so it's So yeah, all in all, I thought it was all right. I give it a 3 out of 5. Yeah, I think I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
For me, it's a 2. Sorry, this one's a dud. this one's a super dud. I was hoping to be really, when you hear things and sort of read things before it come out, I was expecting better. It's a 2 dud, this one.
Yeah, because the only review I've seen about this give it a 4-star review, and I was like, okay. But I wasn't expecting it to be a 4-star film. I was thinking that that's probably somebody who's, I don't know, like a Stephen King fan, and like anything that comes off his family is great or something like. But hey, but yeah, so that is our aggregate score of 2.5 for The Black Phone. And now we get onto the debut on the podcast of something from Shudder. Shudder's debut.
Shudder's debut.
Debut, yes.
Shudder's debut, and this is a film that I've heard good things about, called Mad God.
Yeah, Mad God.
And Shaun, you told me beforehand, you were like, I don't understand why this isn't at the cinemas. Why isn't this at the cinemas? I figured that you would probably sort of like swap them and have this at the cinemas and Black Phone on Shudder.
Yeah, this should be, because visually it is absolutely stunningly amazing. So I would have totally been immersed in this. I mean, I have to say that it probably wouldn't appeal to a lot of people because it's very, very gory. There's some really, really nasty imagery in it, and but I'll tell you the basic story anyway. So basically, it starts off with this like diving. It's animated, a bit of stop motion. And
is it?
What have you? Yes. So and it took like 30 years. He's been doing it for 30 years. And so you get a little diving bell comes down, and this guy comes out of the diving bell with like a big gas mask on, and like Hydra and Captain America, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And he just goes through this world. He's got a suitcase, and he gets out and he goes through this world, and there's some really, really strange creatures there. There's some he goes in. There's some rooms where there's some creatures being tortured, and like slavey type people and all stuff. This reminded me a bit of this imagery of Dante's Inferno, where he goes into like the 7 planes of hell. I don't know if it was enough to do that. It probably wasn't. Anyway, so he gets deeper and deeper, and he goes down, and he ends up with this room where all the suitcases are, and in it it's like a bomb. So but he gets captured, and there's some nasty things done to him, and it's visually it's absolutely stunning. It's pretty bizarre, and it's pretty gory, and I would say a bit grotesque, a bit Frank Kafka-ish, what I mean, with like that. I remember reading a book called Metamorphosis, and so something happens, and then you get a flashback to, it goes back up to the top, and there's another diving bell, and you've got all these sort of creatures which are basically look like Nazis and that, and you get another one gets in the diving bell and goes down and goes on a different journey, and it's just there's some really, really weird floaty creatures. There's some nasty things with like the in Toy Story, if we go back to that, there's like that little doll's head, that little doll's head on the spider thing on the car. You know that little thing? Do you know the one I mean? Do you remember?
Yeah. No, in the first Toy Story, the doll's head that has his head, all of his head ripped out, and it's attached to spider legs. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's,
Sid the neighbour made them, didn't he? Or something?
Yeah, Sid made them.
Yeah. So yeah, Sid made them. That's it. So but there's all these, and I don't know. Have you ever seen a film? There's a film called Nine, which is like little.
Yes, nine. The number 9.
Number 9, yeah.
Not to be confused with Nine, written Nine, which is a French musical,
which came out about the same time. But anyway, so there's a lot of that. So like the stop motion is they're very woolly. But yeah, no, there's some. I have to say, it was visually stunning, but I don't know what Sharon would make of it. I really don't know what Sharon would make of it, because it is like there's no talking. You just you hear like background like thing, but there's no talking.
How long is it?
It's about 90 minutes, I think. So but it's just purely. I don't know. It reminds. There was a film called. There's a film called Something Planet that reminded me of, which I think it was a homage to, which is that animated thing, and a bit like the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings. And so but I would have absolutely adored to see this at the cinema because.
So does it have a story to it, or is it kind of like one of those almost more experiential films?
It's got a basic story to it. It's, from what I can gather, it's like this that they're going down to actually try and destroy this place, but they're never successful. And it goes on and on because you've got this like surgeon that goes in for this one that's captured, and they pull things out, and they pull out a child, and then this floaty thing comes in and takes a child away. And it's like, I mean, it's pretty bizarre. You got people with their heads on, sat on loos, which are like, it's a. Yeah, I would say it. It's pretty bizarre, but I really enjoyed it. But this is definitely not for everybody.
You are describing one of my 7 Rings of Hell by.
Yeah, no. Well, I was thinking, I can imagine. I'm wondering if it was sort of little based on that, because as they go lower, it does get, there's some weird stuff going on, and I think is it Dante's Inferno where like the popes are going through the popes are all going through a tube, you know what I mean? All the popes, because as you go down, you get like the usury and all the different experiences he has. But
it just sounds like a hellish experience.
An animated horror movie.
Animated horror film.
Yeah, you could call it a pretty horror movie because there's some nice nasty moments with people being ripped and all this. So, but for someone like me who likes, go on, what? And animated as well.
I'm allergic to anime. I'm allergic.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. And
you are describing my worst nightmare.
That's it.
An animated horror movie.
Yeah. Some sort of existential sort of crises in a film would be my experience of watching it, I think.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I wouldn't even. This is definitely, if you're into that weird like universe.
Although, Sean, if you want to answer your question of why this isn't at the cinemas, if you said that it sounds like it was an independent thing, and that this guy, independent thing that this guy made in over 30 years, that's why. That's why
it is. As I say, and it would be a niche audience, I'm pretty sure. I think this would be a cult thing. This would have been one of those cult films. So that's probably why it never made it to the cinema, because I'm sure it would have, and also maybe even have offended some people, perhaps. But
there might be one of those indie films somewhere out there that will think you've just described my perfect film. I'm going to show you the next
No, because honest, it's funny because I hadn't heard anything about Mad God, and but then I heard about I didn't hear anything about Mad God whatsoever. And earlier on today, there's a Facebook group that I'm part of called Film Buffs. And somebody had posted something about Mad God going, oh, this is great. Oh, my God, I really enjoyed this. And I was like, never heard of it. And from the still that they posted, I actually thought it was an old film that they had just watched again, like from the 70s or something like that, from the still that they posted. And so it's funny that you said that you watched it and then you were like, oh, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And this film must be following me around. But so how many stars would you give Mad God?
5.
5 stars for Mad God. And so all that's left to do is to ask, who do you think has won this week?
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure it's been the streaming and friends.
Yes, I think it would be Streaming as Friends. It would be Streaming as Friends. We've had a bit of an average week at cinema this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
But
had a
there
bit
are
of.
some good cinema movies due out, aren't there? So I mean, we've got like
I really
Elvis.
want to see Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. I want to see Good Luck to You, Rio Grande.
It's not on at the island, is it, Sharon?
It's not it's one of those films. There's like all these. There's becoming a subgenre of cinema, which is small British films that nobody can watch. That are released, small British
Is that
films
the
that
one
are
with Emma Thompson?
with Emma
Sort of
Thompson.
discovering her sexuality, basically.
Yeah, and I don't know what it says about me, but I love the idea of that in the film. I love the idea of that. I like I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about this like if I think about on-screen couples who I have rooted for the most in recent years, because I'm watching a Apple TV Plus show called Ted Lasso, and there is Hannah Waddingham, who is an older woman who has a relationship with a younger man, and I'm really rooting for that couple. There is Annette Bening and Jamie Bell in Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool. I love that relationship. I think that was
a class film. I think we reviewed that. That was a good one.
That was an absolute class film. And then this one, and I'm like, what is it? What does it say about me that I really like films in which it's older women discovering their sexualities, usually with younger men? And I don't want to think too hard about that.
No, I wouldn't.
And I really don't want to think too hard about that. But all this to say, I'm really looking forward to watching, when I can find it anywhere, Good Luck to You, Rio Grande. No, not Rio Grande. That's John Wayne.
Yeah.
Leo Grande. But before we go, I just want to say that I have always said that if anybody gets back in touch with us and shows us any bit of attention whatsoever, we are going to read this stuff out. We are going to read out their stuff, their correspondence to us online. And through our YouTube videos, we are beginning to reach more people, which is good. If you're listening to this and you listened to this far, thank you so much for listening. Do leave us a review, hopefully a 5-star one on iTunes or wherever it is you get there. Go into our YouTube channel and interact. We're Netflix for Cinema on YouTube. Find some film reviews that you like, film reviews that you agree with, film reviews that you definitely do not agree with, and just say something, because we like to hear. We like to hear that. So we had somebody from someone called Keith Hansen, who just said on our Operation Mincemeat review, I enjoyed this film a lot. Thank you very much, Keith. This one was actually on Facebook. This was I think it was on Facebook, and it was randomly a comment on the TV show that we reviewed, Pieces of Her.
Yeah.
Pieces of Her that we reviewed, and it was, let me just find it. Pieces of Her.
So, you looking forward to anything in particular, Sharon?
Well, Elvis, I think, is coming out this weekend.
Yeah, I definitely want to see Elvis.
Yeah. And then there's Thor. I think Thor and Love and Death. It's quite fun.
Yeah. So we got a couple.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is somebody called Victoria, and her middle name, I'm going to pronounce it Puma Shandu, because it's spelled Phume. And once I saw that name, I was like, that has got to be a Southern African name, because that is spelled like a Southern African name. I've got friends in South Africa who have names like that, where they have a P and H beside it, but in South Africa those are pronounced with a P sound, like Poom. And I know that whenever South Africans pronounce it, they like to put some welly behind it. So they have Umpo, and it's Umpo. Umpo is like Famunga or something like that. But so I'm gonna go Victoria Puma Shandu. And she replied to our review of Pieces of Her, which I think was Holly and I, saying, my honest opinion is 2 stars, and that's just for Tony, so Toni Collette, and the first 2 episodes. The Andy character, which is the daughter character, played by Bella Heathcote, just ruins the series. She's just awful. I tried following this, but it was so hard with her horrible acting. I will try and find a recap. I'll try to just find a recap at this point and look for something else that Tony is in. And she used, I think we used more diplomatic language than she did, but we agreed.
I know it wasn't a high review for that one, was it?
It wasn't a high review for that one. Especially, I think the worst performance in the film was Adelaide pretending to be Washington, D.C. It's obviously Australia. Why are you trying to pretend like you're in America? You're in Australia and it looks like Australia. And it turns out that, so I asked her where she was based, and it turns out that she is based in South Africa. So yeah.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, yo. That's me for world knowledge there. So thank you very much, Victoria. And here is hearing to hearing more of your things and more of your reviews on our reviews. Thank you very much. So I think that's it. And until next week, when we might watch Elvis. And it seems like I have totally gotten my things. I said that this week we would have Thor: Love and Thunder. It's not out for another couple of weeks. I don't know what I was thinking. But until next week, what was that? Sorry.
There might be some advanced screenings. I know there's an advanced seemingly coming up on the island, but I don't know if it's for Thor or for something else.
All right, cool, good stuff. And so until next week, when we watch those, it is a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for listening this far. Leave us a review.